All right, this is where we start at 8 o'clock. As many as 25,000 National Guard troops are expected on the streets of Washington, D.C. to ensure the inauguration of incoming U.S. President Joe Biden, and that passes without problems. The city is bracing itself for a potential extremist attack like the violence seen on January the 6th when pro-Trump rioters broke into the Capitol building. FBI intelligence suggests more armed protests are planned. The mayor of D.C. has ordered a state of emergency and says the city is undergoing an unprecedented level of preparation. SABC correspondent in Washington, Kate Fischer, joins me now live. Kate, hello to you. Thanks indeed for your time. So all states, we understand, are on high alert, but talk us through the heightened security around the Capitol ahead of this presidential inauguration.
Well, it is quite unprecedented. You can see behind me the Capitol dome, but it is surrounded by several lines of National Guard who are armed. They also have their military vehicles here. Across the city, roads are blocked off with big concrete blocks. All the metro stations in the centre of town are closed. The buses aren't running. The National Mall, which is usually the place that Americans gather for presidential inaugurations to celebrate the new president coming in, well, that's been shut off to the public. It's closed off by fencing, as is the Capitol, surrounded by this 8-foot fence, and the White House as well. These beacons of American democracy shut off from the rest of the world and shut off from Americans, and under heavily armed guard. Up to 25,000 National Guard troops expected to be here in the US Capitol by Inauguration Day. And as I've been standing here outside, I've seen buses being brought in filled with soldiers.
Absolutely unprecedented, as we've been hearing over the past couple of days, Kate. So with so much restriction in terms of movement as well, what is the sentiment from locals there?
Well, it's quite extraordinary. People in Washington are used to being interrupted in their lives. There are often motorcades, there's usually helicopters circling regularly overhead, but this is like something they have never experienced. Not even after 9/11, which is the last time that there was this much security in the city. It was nowhere near like this. You certainly didn't have armed soldiers patrolling the streets, and not just a few, but 20-odd thousand of them. So Washingtonians, those that I know, some of them are leaving town. The mayor has said, if you want to enjoy the inauguration, please don't come to Washington. Please enjoy it virtually, watch it on television or on your computers. People can't get around, they can't drive easily from work to home. So it's an incredibly strange time here. And on top of all that, of course, we're dealing with a pandemic. So life wasn't normal to start with. So it does feel like a very odd time to be here in Washington.
Kate, just watching the international news networks here in South Africa a bit earlier on today. So the FBI is vetting that 25,000 strong National Guard troops in D.C. amid those fears of an insider attack. Talk to us a bit about that as well.
Okay, I will stay.
Yeah, that's right. This is the idea that there could be members of the armed forces or law enforcement officers who were actually sympathetic to the people that raided the Capitol and those right-wing extremist groups. And so often the concern about an insider issue is when American troops are abroad in Iraq or Afghanistan and they're working with local law enforcement agencies there could be concern that one of those may be, working undercover, so to speak. But here, the concern is that there could be Americans who are serving in those armed forces or in the police forces who are sympathetic to these ideas and could help those extremist groups to launch an attack. And that is why the FBI is saying it is re-vetting all those troops to check out their social media, check their backgrounds, to make sure that there's nobody who is serving in the armed forces here and the police forces that could be sympathetic and help anyone that is trying to attack the Capitol or indeed any other part of Washington.
SABC News correspondent in Washington, D.C. Thanks indeed, Kate Fischer, joining us there, of course, ahead of Wednesday's inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden. We'll certainly give you a whole lot more of that here on the SABC News programmes, because obviously a lot of the world's focus is on that at the moment.